And a special niche that I'm doing right now, and I'm really enjoying, is working in parks within my community, within my local state, where I'm kind of combining a few of my skill sets, because I used to be a contracting specialist for the Army, so I know about government procurement and creating requirements. So a few success stories that I've had is where I go to different parks in my community, just walk them with the mind of a general contractor and safety, and just write requirements of how the parks can be improved for concrete, for trip hazards or improvements that can be done. And I write these requirements, and then I give them to the management of the area. And within a couple of months, they turn into requirements that I'm able to bid on. And since I helped develop the requirement, it has given me a legs up on them. And I've done several projects like that. And I think that at the moment, because of the cost of construction materials, because of the cost prohibited, the cost limitations on doing new construction, a lot of counties and cities and even the federal government is putting a lot of emphasis on renovating existing structures and putting a lot of money into parks. So that's kind of a niche that I'm attacking on right now, and really enjoying it. I'm Luis, and
There you go. Thank you, Luis. That's a perfect example, as Tony was talking about earlier today, thinking about those processes. Luis has found a way, based on his expertise and talent, and clearly passionate about what he's doing as a small general contractor. I love that, Luis. No shame, general contracting. We should make that a hashtag. No shame, general contracting. What do you think about that, Tanika? You like that?
I like it. I like it.
No shame, GC. Hashtag Brittanie. We're gonna make it a thing, maybe. So, that's a great example of how. Go ahead,
I was
Brittanie.
gonna say, just as long as you have one for an owner too.
You mean? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm ready. I'm ready today, Brittanie. I got all the magical soundboards are at the ready. Yeah, we want to make sure we hear from the lovely people in the room. The Lean Construction Roundtable is all about people, then process. Right, Tony?
I agree. I'm still thinking about our lady carpenter. My brain is thinking of things that are important for urban cities. I'm originally from Detroit, but my brain is like, what can we do to make sure local communities are the urban harvesters of older homes. So the handmade uh, um, 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 banister, some old bear claw bath is not just pillaged. So how do we make sure that when gentrification does happen, that these original structures, these pieces of memories of stories are restored and returned? That's what I'm thinking about for Tamika.
Yeah, Tony, you remind me of, I was, spending some time doing research on the TikTok last night. I know it's not the TikTok. I was on TikTok last night and I came across in my feed a few videos of people restoring houses. Like they were doing renovations and they were finding these like treasure troves of old tile work under carpets and floors that they were just fantastic and beautiful and extremely decorative that we just don't get that level anymore typically in the commercial areas, so, or residential. And it's just amazing to see the people taking the time to a fix up what they have, b, appreciating what they already have, and then b, putting some video on it. I mean, it's just like entertaining. I just kept one right after the other. Tanika, have you found any gems like that in the work that you've done?
Yes. Actually, Actually, I'm driving through a old historical neighborhood right now, where a developer has come through and bought up a bunch of homes, and they wanted me. A lot of the windows, like they're curved, like the window frames are curved, and they needed a carpenter who can, not only restore the ones that are in good shape, but recreate the ones that need to be replaced. And so they called me, and unfortunately, my workload was just such that I had to outsource it. But I'm still, one of their resources that they call for this type of woodwork. I renovate entire houses, so getting to do something as specialized as that is an actual treat for me. It's fun. So I've come across it, and that skill is in demand because it's so special.
That's a great example. There you go, Tony. There's food for thought for you. She's working on something that in commercial construction would give me nightmares. Curved windows. I mean, we like everything 90 degrees, boring, just for easier installations and repetition. But I think that's incredible. The craftsmanship that people had and can still continue to have. It's incredible. So I love that that folks are restoring neighborhoods and keeping intact some of the older ways. What character do we have in those beautiful old neighborhoods, right, Tony? Those neighborhoods tell such a story. Like Detroit, I grew up in Chicago, not in any cool area. I grew up in the suburbs. I'm a suburban brat. I know you can't tell from my lovely deep tones, Tony, that this is a suburban child talking to you. But I love to spend a lot of time in the city looking at the plaques on the older buildings, and then I have a couple architecture books behind me that are historical books showing some of the a little bit of storytelling on some of the older buildings and how they came to be. And I had the privilege of working on the old Montgomery Ward headquarters. Those of you that remember Montgomery Ward's the company. Yeah, some of the older folks in the room think I know Marcus and Brittany too young to remember Montgomery Ward's. But it was at one time it was the world's tallest building at 21 stories. How's that for some perspective? What used to be the world's tallest versus today. We were well over 100 stories. But incredible history. And the reason that I love history so much, and I think, Tony, we're birds of a feather, is because of the people that toiled and the creativity that they had to put these things in place that still stand today far beyond their time here. And that's, going back to what Tony said, the processes that we have and how we build, construct, and design, and even like what Luis was sharing with current government contracts, those processes are gold. And we can be involved in things that can far outlast what we're doing today and also be involved in things that pull in more people. One of the beautiful things about construction as an industry, you're hearing from, Luisa's story as a general contractor, Lady Carpenter CEO Tanika, we'll make that a household name, Tanika, soon. I was actually talking about what your work is yesterday in my house. So in California, Lady Carpenter is already a household name. So you're already making it happen. And that those two stories are right there, Tony. We got processes with talented, passionate, very much alive people making construction better, different parts of the country, different things, and the benefits of their work and the work that the people they're employing are going to last far beyond what we think is even possible. There'll be a clubhouse room in the future, Tony, where people are talking about the work that Luis has done and what Tanika is doing. And if we're lucky, Brittany, maybe even some of the sound effects that I had. Or maybe not. I'm Felipe and I'm done speaking.
Hey, Philly. I have another question or situation that I would like to.
Yeah, go ahead, Luis. What's your question?
Well, in this park work that I'm doing, I come across facility managers that are looking for solutions to old problems, and I went to this park, and they have this pickleball court which I didn't even know what pickleball was.
Luis, it sounds like your internet connections. Luis, your internet connection's getting challenged a little bit. So look at your bars and make sure that your phone is still super happy. But it sounds like your question was about pickleball. And I myself, Luis, just learned what pickleball was, of all places, from Brene Brown. You believe that, Brittany? Brene Brown on her podcast was talking about how she is hyped up, super hyped up, and got addicted to playing pickleball. And I mentioned it to my wife, and I was like, honestly, hon, I don't even know what pickleball is. It's like some form of tennis and badminton, some other things come together, but it's apparently super popular in Houston. So, Luis, if your internet's better, ask me your pickleball question, and I'll have to defer to somebody else. I still don't really know what it is.
You know,
I just want to
hey,
welcome Cedric to the stage.
I have a question. Felipe, you got me? To the group.
Oh, John's back in. John, go ahead and do your introduction, then we'll go to Cedric.
I was gonna say there's no shame in being a fan of pickleball, right? See how I did that?
Yeah, hashtag no GC shame. No shame GC.
No shame
Good.
GC.
Good job, John.
Well, Brene Brown of all people would be the one that would not be shamed into playing pickleball. So perfect tie-in to.
Oh my God, man, you did that perfectly. You're like a boss right now.
You see how I did that?
Oh my God.
I finally got in the good connection, and now I can share and collaborate and
just in time.
So yeah, just in time. Do you guys want to keep going? Luis, does Luis have a better connection that we?
Do I have a better connection now?
Yes,
is it better now?
do.
Yeah.
Okay. So, they want me to renovate this tennis court and turn it into a pickleball court, and trying to find a way of doing it in a lean way. Currently, it has like two inches of asphalt on top of concrete, and it's kind of buckling in different places. And the scope of work that I'm proposing is to remove all the asphalt, grind the concrete surface, and then either put some sort of coating on it or put some modified concrete overlay on it. The thing is, it needs to be like super uh, leveled, so they can do their pickleball thing, and just trying to come up with some ideas where I can keep it under $100,000, maybe even half than that, and be able to restore this tennis court.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'd say, Luis, taking off the buckling asphalt is definitely going to be value add, but everything you do is going to add up. I'd recommend reaching out to a local manufacturer, potentially somebody like an Ardex, ARDEX, that specializes in concrete. You might want to even look at sandblasting the concrete instead of grinding as an interior option, depending on how it looks when you do a little bit of exploration. And there's nothing wrong with giving the client some options. So if you engage with like an Ardex and just say like, this is the existing condition we have, they'll come out for free to look at your conditions and offer you scientific recommendations that involve their products magically. Most manufacturers will do that. And if they're not in your local area, find out who is local in your area that has that concrete expertise. And I'm imagining this pickleball court is outside. So being outside and exposed to the sun has its own set of things to do. Concrete is very fickle, and it doesn't like to be topped with other things, especially when it's in direct sunlight. So there are definitely going to be products out there, and I would say go for options. Give a couple options, and then be dazzled by the client, because you're providing solutions, my friend, and not just a singular solution. So thank you, Luis, for that question. But I do want to give Cedric a chance to introduce himself and ask his question, and then we'll get back to John. Go ahead, Cedric.
Thanks. And I hope this doesn't derail them. I hope this is an area where I can get an answer to this. I had a small little construction company about 10 years ago. we did single family homes. I got out of the business when the collapse happened in 2007, 2008. But my question is, from the economy standpoint, do you all, one, have any concerns going forward? Like in the fall, we start hearing about the stuff, the economy collapse and so forth. Because my spidey senses are feeling somewhat like 2007, 2008. And the other thing is, with all the construction that's going on, I'm in Houston, Texas. I mean, just a massive amount of construction in light of what has happened in Surfside with the collapse of the building, and with the new construction that's going up in so many places. Like it's I mean, it's like an epidemic of construction, if you will. Are there any concerns that you all have in regard to the quality of the construction that's occurring now, that 20 years from now or 30 years from now we may be dealing with a problem that is similar to what happened in Surfside? And I'll leave my question there. Thank you. My name is Cedric.
Thank you, Cedric. It's good to see you again. That's a great question. I have answers to all those questions, but I want to give everyone else a chance because that's what we've got to do. Who's got some input for Cedric? And Luis is just applauding me for being silent.
Yeah.
I love that. Go
No,
ahead, John. Or Luis, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to say that there's these markets, construction, real estate, they're all cyclical markets, and I guess it's just a matter of planning. When construction goes low, well, then the time for real estate investing is prime, and when the time for real estate investing is not good, well, then construction tends to be pretty high. So what I have to say is, yeah, basically plan on every market is going to be cyclical, and try to position yourself in a market that when if construction goes down, you can move on, shift, or pivot to something else that's gonna increase demand, and there's always those opportunities.
I love how the Link Construction Roundtable is going full on economics this morning. Beautiful July. This just tells you where we're at. So Cedric, like Luis said, it's totally cyclical. I'm just going to put my economics hat on and let you know that typically we see in commercial construction that it follows a cycle magically. It's kind of weird. It follows the presidential election cycle of all things. There's a correlation between government spending and which party is in office or in power. And we just see a shift between every 4 to 8 years, government spending or private spending versus government public spending. And so the cycles move. So if you're in Houston right now, and local economies obviously have local economies with a little bit different flair, but there will be a flush of cash. Like right now, with Democrats in the executive branch, we're seeing a major shift towards public projects, public works, big public spending money. And there's a slight slowdown on private, a slight slowdown because you have the pandemic to mix in. But on the other part, Cedric, that you mentioned, like your spidey senses are going off on the financial collapse of 2008 when home lending blew up and caused a ripple of all kinds of catastrophe and exposed bad mortgage practices and just that whole. I mean, we could do a show on just that whole thing, but that's not this channel, not this podcast, not this Clubhouse roundtable. But that you're right. There is a reckoning that is coming with the financial markets, and you don't need to worry too much, Cedric. When it happens, we'll all just do what human beings do. We'll adjust. We'll pivot and adjust because I got to eat every day. I got to pay my bills every day. And just like we learned in 2008, the world still turned and people adapted. So keep your eyes open, be ready to adapt and pivot, and just imagine. I like to always just take the mindset, Cedric, that I cannot predict the future, but I can co-create my future, which is a much happier place to be than being a victim to the circumstances around me. So just my food for thought.
And Philippe, the second question was in regard to quality of construction.
Oh, yes.
In the Surfside, and 30 years from now or 20 years from now, are there any concerns you all have with the volume that we're doing, the inspection rates that have to be done, and so forth? Any concerns there? And I'll land it there. Thank you for
Yeah, no problem. We'd love the questions. To anybody that's down below the stage, if you've got a question like Cedric and you want to poke all the beautiful people up here with your brilliant question and have your curiosity satiated, highly recommend you put your hand up and ask to jump up on stage and get that question answered. Cedric, I have zero concerns for quality. It's better quality today in commercial construction and residential construction is at an all-time high. It's the greatest time ever to be building. And municipalities and authorities having jurisdiction that are doing inspections are sometimes taxed and not able to do what they're going to do. That particular story that hit the news in Florida, that is the result of a series of events that started with people cutting corners, with the developer getting some leeway and just not doing the right thing. And if I've read some of the stories coming out on the apartment building that just got demolished ahead of the storm before they even recovered all the humans that lost their lives in that collapse, that was something that many people had to turn their head and look away to let that get to the point that it got to. So that's one story. There are literally millions of buildings in the United States alone. Cedric, construction is a $3 trillion business across the United States. $3 trillion, and stories like what we saw in Florida are very rare. So I want you to always think that you've got signal and noise, and when you're watching the news, unfortunately, sometimes stories are amplified out of context and it's really just more noise. You have to determine with your experiences if this is a signal, if this is something real of things to come, or is this someone just selling advertising? And in news, typically, if it bleeds, it leads. And people react to catastrophe and negative bad news more than the positive good news of what's going out there. So glad you came to a room with people that build for a living. I'm seeing quality go up. I've even seen large multi-billion-dollar hospital construction do as many as 500 to 600 inspections a week with a 98% pass rate. And the inspector for the hospital, independent of the contractor, actually speak up in a meeting and talk about the high quality that they were seeing from the trade community, that this is one of the best projects they've ever seen ever in terms of past inspections on the first time. And I thought, wow, that's just a testament to how far we've come. Again, going back to the genius of Tony, the right process yielding the right results. And it is possible to increase quality, but not beyond what the customer is paying for, because hashtag no shame GC. I'm Felipe and I'm done.
If there are ways to look at concrete buildings differently, I think the scanning of rebar is clearly in order. We look back at here in California at the Oroville Dam failure, as it was slowly but surely being overrun or overtopped, and as it failed, an amazing picture showed where was the rebar that was supposed to be installed. Again, this is one of the tools that wasn't available 40 years ago. We might start thinking about some cursory scanning to be if it gives us peace of mind, what was the real clearance? Did you match your drawings? As things were accelerating in the 1970s for that Surfside community, some 40 buildings that look identical. It might give people peace of mind to do some scanning, but you're right. Overall, I feel that the pace of construction and the quality of construction we have today is better than it ever was. But we still live on our grandparents' infrastructure. We are still a break fix society. And when we get to the point where we're actually mature enough to actually extend our hand to go further than we were before, not just break fix to the existing buildings. But on all these things, I always think about water first, and that's where we should spend our dollars. Tony.
I love that, Tony. John, it's time for you to do your intro. I'm like dying to know who you are, John.
You're dying to
Again.
know who I am. All these things we talk about really center, I think, around the idea of culture. So let me introduce myself, and then we'll get into that conversation, because this is really about creating a culture of accountability and collaboration. And so forget about the idea of the word lean for a minute and just talk about the idea of collaboration. We talked a lot about culture last week, almost to the point where we were going to rename this the building construction culture roundtable or something like that. So I'm John Zahara. I'm from Chicago, from the city of Chicago, not the suburbs. I do live in the suburbs now, so I became a suburbanite, but city of Chicago. My company is Integrated Facility Solutions. We're an owner's representative firm, and kind of I won't call it my side business, but an element of my work that has gone on for the last 3 or 4 years is really the idea of lean coaching teams, helping teams be better at what they do. Again, throw out the word lean. You don't need to even use the word. It's just really about how do we look at what we've been doing and try to do it better today than we did yesterday. And so I think all the topics we touched on, how do we get rid of the risk of, I'm just reading about a building in Chicago that had inspectors 3 years ago say, you need to repair these columns or you're going to be in, a major situation, and no one's done anything about it up to this day. So it just brings to a new light to the idea that people don't, once they finish something, they move on to the next thing. And when we're talking about this idea of, Tony was saying, where's the rebar, right? So if we start to really build in kind of those leading indicators into our project teams, rather than a lagging indicator, the thing we're going to do after it's done and go check it, we are now building in value into that value stream that Felipe was talking about. So I want the people, the men and women that build our projects, to care about what they're building. I want them to take pride in what they're building and do it right the first time, not do it right after it's already been done. So how do we build that culture and have this philosophy embedded into everything we do, that people really take accountability for what they're building and what they're putting together and what they're designing? How do we empower people to do that? And that starts with a philosophy that we're going to do this together. We're driving culture. And I think it has to start a lot of times from the owner's perspective. The hard part is when we get into a development world where we're going to build a building, spin it off, and sell it. Are we thinking about building in that idea of quality? Because it doesn't have to cost more for people to care about what they're doing on the project site. So that's I think that's a really big issue. We talked, and I don't know if it was Luis or Tony or Felipe along the same line a few minutes ago about the idea of problem solving. And I think it was Tony that was talking about the idea of problem solving as this knee-jerk reaction, rather than understanding the root cause of why we do what we do, and then changing it from after doing a root cause analysis. Again, this is all about building a culture of accountability where the things that you say and the things that you do actually matter. People and you have to account for those things. So we can't abuse the position that we're in. We have to build this culture of collaboration. You can call it lean, we can call it whatever we want. I was thinking about what Luis was saying about his project, and my thoughts were, you have a target value that if the client is willing to pay $100,000, then you have a target value of $100,000 to do your pickleball project. What you want to be, if you want to be lean, be transparent, be open, be honest, and bring solutions to the client, so the client gets to choose what they want to do. So that's all you got to do to be lean. You got to be open and transparent and honest. You got to be vulnerable. You can't be in your silo, in your protective shell. So that's the hardest part that a lot of people have to deal with. Because I was thinking about the word lean all week, and do we even need to use the word lean, or can we just call it the construction roundtable? And I just, Felipe, I know you and I live in this same world a lot, and I wonder if that resonates, if that gets more people to the table, or if the word lean kind of scares people away because they don't understand it. They like, oh yeah, I tried that and it didn't work, and so they back away from it. And really, this is about culture, building a culture, and being accountable for your actions. I'm John, and I'm done speaking. I'll let somebody else jump in there, but just really thinking about culture a lot as I move forward in my day.
Yeah, that's beautiful, John. Melissa and Hussein, do you have anything you'd like to add to John's stirring of the pot for what this group can be called? Because we're always looking to get better. And Melissa, I think with your poetic skills, you might be able to help us craft a really good name for this group. We want to attract more people. We want this to be the lean construction beautiful flower where people come to get pollinated and they go back out into the world and make the beautiful sweet honey that they want to make. And if you don't have anything, that's okay. We can go. We can just riff.
I think you just found the new name, Felipe. I think you just put that all in the title. How many?
No. I want to hear from Melissa. Go ahead, Melissa.
I'm sorry, I missed the question. I'm in the office.
Maybe
I can.
Yeah, you absolutely can. We were just kicking around as a group. What would be a good name for this room so that we can attract more folks to come with curiosity and get engaged with these processes? Is lean the right name for our roundtable here? John was talking about culture as another one. Brittanie, what else has been kicked around?
We've been playing around with a number of ideas in relation to what this room should be called. For those of you who don't know, I am the founder of the Prop Tech Club. For those of you who don't know what Prop Tech is, it's property technology. And lean construction is and has been I'm going to say passion, but it has almost been an epiphany over the years that it really just it is a better way of doing things. The whole idea of lean is focused on the idea of continuous improvement. But when you think about like a sexy title, that doesn't help. Like culture could help. But when we were kicking around ideas some time ago, um, we were talking about coming up with names that really share that using the methodologies and having a lean mindset, um, those things can actually solve a problem that you have on a day-to-day basis. So as an example, Cedric, came up and asked this question, particularly around, the state of the industry and, what we might be thinking around, like, is this a economic time that we should be concerned about? These are the kinds of things that, obviously in the 20 and 30 years from now, we can't predict in any way, shape, or form. Exactly what's going to happen, but what we do know is we can solve some of these problems by being tried and true with particular these tools and a lean mindset. And lean is not ever going to just stay like quote unquote lean. Lean is always going to get better. That's because it's focused on continuous improvement. But if we were to focus on the problem in the title, or the fact that we're finding solutions to those problems, I think that could be a really viable way to change up the room name. I haven't come up with any really good ones. I think, John, back in the day, you were recommending bring your construction problems, we'll help you solve them. That's a fun one, but it also, I think, from a property technology perspective, it's not just the delivery methods. It's thinking about the entire life cycle of a facility, right? We do have some real estate investors and um, facilities managers in the rooms and in the room today, and we have all different people in the Prop Tech Club throughout the week. oftentimes it makes sense for us to think about that entire life cycle as well, because it's customer driven focused work, right? I loved what Tanika was talking about around her client asking her about the rounded windows, where the frame itself was curved. That particular client is looking for something very specific, and they're going to be very happy once that particular problem is solved. If we can think about it from the mindset of the individual or the company that we're delivering for, I think that could be an interesting way to pose our room names as well. So that's some food for thought. I'm looking forward to hearing some responses from other individuals about culture and mindset as well, and how we could pose that lean, or however we like to call it, can help solve the challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis.
Hey, Alan here. Sorry I'm driving right now, but I have some thoughts on this, and if it's okay, I'd like to respectfully challenge the title a little bit. I wonder whether or not it needs to be a static thing to be room to room, because a lot of the times the discussion, to your point, will evolve. It's always improving, and it's good to have something that's consistent in the title so that everyone knows what they're coming into day to day, week to week, whenever the room is scheduled. But um, you can also achieve that through the consistency of your scheduling. Once you're known for your brand of prop tech, those topics will kind of inherently be circled around prop tech. But having that guidance for people as opposed to crowdsourcing topics from the people would be helpful for people who are scrolling through the hallway on Clubhouse to know exactly what they're coming into, and they may or may not want to talk about prop tech in the general sense. They may want to talk about something specific, and the title will help to facilitate that from room to room. But also on the topic, moving on to the topic of culture now. I'm a relatively young professional in my career. I'm really passionate about workforce engagement, and a lot of these times when we talk about lean and we talk about culture, it's always at a high level surface. This is a problem, but I struggle to find any concrete, pun not intended, solutions on what we can actually do to move away from these silos, what we can do to convince our frontline workers to really build quality into each step of the process, as opposed to John's point, fixing it after the fact. Um, and for me, as I'm a technician in the biotech and now medical devices space, one thing that really stuck with me early on is the product that I'm manufacturing, that I'm producing, that I'm building, um, something that I'm truly comfortable with giving to a loved one, a family member, a friend, uh, whether it be vaccines, whether it be a medical device that is used to assist in surgery. So these are the critical to quality specifications and components that you really need to, as a technician, really do it right the first time, and not cut any corners. Whereas there are other things as they relate to the process that you may push back on when it comes to quality, but also it's part of the continuous improvement process to validate, consistently challenge, and improve these things so that you can have a robust product, you can have something that is sustainably built and manufacturable. So I'll pause there, and thank you for giving me the space.
Thank you, Alan. Melissa, did anything jog your memory, your poetic mind, if you want to do some poetic waxing? Or if not, you can always direct message us and give us your ideas in the future. Either way is okay.
Thank you,
No,
thank you. Um,
Hold on, Luis.
just
We're gonna go to Melissa, and then we'll come back to you in a second, Luis.
maybe Louise has something better. I don't have any poetic flair to add. I think the current name, the Lean Construction Roundtable, I think that's um like anybody searching, you search for construction, you guys could pop up, and then you search for lean, you could pop up, and then of course just saying it's a roundtable, just letting everybody know that hey, we welcome the discussion. So I think, to me, this seems very adequate for the conversation.
There you go. You heard it from the poet, Brittany. Thank you, Melissa. That was actually valuable. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome.
Awesome. Luis, what were you gonna add?
I was just gonna add in reference to the title of the group. I like the name of mastermind, construction mastermind, in the sense of Napoleon Hill of what a mastermind is. I think that there's a video that's called "How Great Ideas Are Born," and you can search it on YouTube. And the way great ideas are born is by different pieces that different people bring together through the conversation of trying to achieve a common goal. So I think that's the greatness about this platform, where we can bring different parts of the puzzle to solve big problems. And yeah, construction mastermind. I think it's a great name for those that understand that. And yeah, in reference to culture, there's two sides of the coin in reference to efficiencies. Efficiencies does help with lean construction, but it also becomes, when it comes to the sense of economics, sometimes it can turn into a race to the bottom, and in reference to trying to do these projects as fast as possible at the lowest cost, and it turns into a point where it's not sustainable for all stakeholders. And something that I do in my business, I'm like I mentioned before, I'm a small GC in Georgia, and I create partnerships with my subcontractors where we work based on profit sharing, and it's not me just not being transparent and not sharing, all the cards, and we basically work more based on profit sharing. Of, hey, this is, the customer has shared the budget. This is the budget. We have to offer a solution within the budget, and here's the percentage for labor. Here's the percentage for material. And this is how we're going to work it. And at the end of the day, at least in my small projects, everybody ends up happy, because everybody's working, already knowing um, what the end goal is, and everybody works towards that common goal. So that's what I wanted to share. My name is Luis.
I love that point,
Yeah,
Luis.
thank you, Luis.
I was just going to
Go ahead,
share
Brittany.
for those who don't know, Marcus and I, we have a company called Constructor, and it's spelled really weird. It's spelled construct double R, and those two R's. People always ask me, what do those two R's mean? And for those of you who don't know, it means shared risk, shared reward. So what you're talking about, Louise, about making sure that you guys have shared profit amongst you and your trade partners, I think that is a really good approach. Um, One thing that we're really excited about when we talk about lean is the opportunity for shared risk, shared reward contracting, where you offer up not only an opportunity incentivization for people to win, but also an acknowledgement that, hey, if we don't all band together, uh, this is again back to the mindset, right? If we don't all band together, we'll also share in the losings. So just wanted to share that. I like the approach, and I like the mindset. Um, but shared risk, shared reward is certainly something that people should look more into if they're not already familiar with. And I'm happy to share about that. I know John is super familiar with that as well in regards to the contracting. Felipe as well. So thanks.
Yeah, I think to go back real quick, John, and then I'll throw it back to you. What Alan said and what Brittany and Luis just all danced around is this topic of how we actually what's our mindset on how we're contracting and working with people. And Alan, this is this. I hope this unlocks for you the difference between transactional versus relational uh, ways of working together. So with your frontline workers on the assembly line or as a technician, if your organization is a little more transactional, then people are more inclined to just be working for a paycheck. If you're like the way you're coming at it, I can tell just how you're talking about it. It's more relational for you as you're thinking about the people that your products are going to benefit. And so relational versus transactional might be a way to understand the culture of your front line. And we do the same thing in construction projects as well. When we do these very large collaborative projects, we're shifting away from the transactional, this is just a job, this is just a project, to relational, that this is something that you're going to put your blood, sweat, and tears and creativity into, and hopefully not very much blood. It could be zero blood. And we want, there's a higher purpose to what we're building here. And we want people to be part of that higher purpose and be proud of what they do. And that starts with our attitudes as leaders on those projects. So I just wanted to share that with you. John, you got something to.
I think what Luis is talking about, this idea of shared risk, shared reward. I think a lot of owners are very leery of that, and I think they don't understand that idea because they said the contractors are going to get their money anyway, so why am I going to give them more money? That kind of philosophy. Will it cost more? I think going back to what Alan had said about this idea of building a culture, how do we do that? We talked last week about, I wanted to go back to that point about the idea of doing a plus delta at the end of our meetings or at the end of any session we have with a group of people, because it's a very simple way to show people that we are empowering them to speak up, speak their mind, and that we're going to listen to it. So the plus delta philosophy is when the tool is really at the end of a meeting, at the end of a session of any kind, you do a plus delta. What pluses are, what did we find valuable today or in this hour, or whatever it was, and what do we want to keep doing? That's the plus, keep doing. And the delta is, what do we think it was, what do we want to adjust or change for next time to make it a more valuable session? Very simple thing we can do. But if people speak up and then they see their words being taken into action, that is how we can start to slowly just kind of work through this idea, the culture of accountability, and the culture that we can speak up and say our piece and people will listen to it. We've had deltas in rooms regarding the type of coffee that we have. We need more donuts. We need more healthy food. We want more fruit, whatever. Like that's all food related. But you know what? If it's going to make the team happy while they're at the meeting, then let's do it. And it's a simple thing to do. It's too cold in the room. I couldn't hear the speaker. Too many interruptions. People were, not respecting each other when they were talking to each other. These are the ground rules that we lay out every time we have a meeting. And if we see that we're making changes, people will start to realize that this group is the group I want to work with. So that's an idea, Alan, for kind of this, how do we build a culture, especially with the younger audience that has a lot of good ideas or it wants to speak up but doesn't really know how to do it. This is a great way to do it if our leaders will allow this to happen and will actually listen to it. And then going to a point like Luis made about the idea of working with his team and creating this team concept where you look at profit sharing. I think the language, Luis, that I use, I call subcontractors trade partners. I know Felipe, Brittanie, those that are in this business and been doing this for a long time in the quote unquote lean world, I use that terminology a lot because I think it really shows the power and accountability and the team atmosphere that we're trying to create by calling them trade partners versus subcontractors. I know contractually they're subcontracted to you as a GC, but it's another great way to show your respect for the organizations that really do all the work on projects. I was a general contractor. I know that if I don't have my trade partners, I don't have a project. So I think those are a couple really great points about how are we going to adjust what we're doing today to make it better tomorrow. These are simple things. Change our language, adjust our language a little bit, and the idea of a plus delta to really empower people to speak up, say their piece, and then let it be heard. But we can't just put it in the suggestion box and put it away. I'm working with a client right now that did this great questionnaire to their contractor and design community that they work with often, and it was about what do we like what we're doing, what are we doing well, and what can we improve upon, right? So they were doing a plus delta. It was great. They took all that information, they put it in a box, they never looked at it again. So we were jokingly saying last week when I was talking to them that they were going to have to dust that box off and pull out the information that they've gotten a while ago. That doesn't work because people then see that their information wasn't heard or wasn't listened to. Why would they want to speak up again? I said the first session I want to do with this team as I coach them is pull all that information out and revisit all of those points and ask for more information about what do we like, what we're doing, and how can we improve. Because then that'll give us the roadmap of how we start working forward as a team, collaborative team on this new project. Again, not very difficult stuff, not earth shattering, but it's extremely powerful when you really see it in action. It's huge. It's amazing what you can do with something as easy and small as that.
Yeah, I love that story, John. We had a similar thing happen. I'm working with a team that's doing an agile transformation, which is just another flavor of lean, agile with a capital A. And management was wanting to get a survey of how agile they are and not even respecting the fact that they're still in the beginning. They're still just learning. It's only like been 6 months. You're not gonna see anything earth shattering. And so they did a bunch of surveys, and the survey came back, and they were shocked to find out that people still don't even know what agile means. And I was like, well, what have you done I just went back to leadership and said, leadership, what have you done to become agile and embody this mindset that you're proclaiming that your people should be for their own good, but you're not doing it yourself? I was like, what have you messaged? What have you demonstrated? So it's not shocking. And so that's a good place to start, John. I love that. Who else has something to add? Hussein.
They probably looked at you and were like, huh? What do you mean? What have we done? We talked about it once in a meeting 2 months ago. That should be enough.
Oh my God, John, you're like psychic. That's exactly.
I was in the room.
You were in the room with us.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Good morning, all. First thing, congratulations, Tampa Bay Lightning winning Stanley Cup. Second, we are here for continuous improvement, and our business is all about, like every single business, all about people. It's all about people, the people that are working, our trade partners, our boots on the ground, as well the people, our client, they are the people as well, our stakeholders, the end users, they are the people. I have many examples I will not get into now of project finish and the end user is not happy with what they got, and that's a fail, even if project was done perfectly well. So it's when we are doing that continuous improvement, as Felipe said, about even when doing an agile, we have to understand that most of the time, all of the time, we are doing a cultural shift. When we are doing an innovation, we're doing a change at that level. When we are trying to introduce continuous improvement, trying to introduce lean, we are doing a cultural shift and a cultural change, and that's not easy. That's the hardest change to implement ever. And but we need to have the mindset that this is a change management issue. I maybe talked about earlier, but I insist that this is a change management issue, and we have to understand the concept of change management so that we try to implement that. It's not easy. it's hard, it's difficult, it needs to go step by step slowly. We need some small success stories to get people on board, to get champions on board, to get people that people trust on board of the change, so that they will become the catalyst of that change. But why we're doing that? We're doing that mainly because if we are if not everybody is on the same page of why we are doing what we are doing, everybody will have their own agenda, and that's a recipe for catastrophe. Like Felipe said, some people just working for the paycheck. They don't care. Okay, tell me what to do today. I'm gonna go and do it. I'm gonna open the drawing, go and do that. They don't really know. They don't have the motivation to think what we are doing, why we are doing it, and what is the success story at the end. So yes, culture is top importance of everything we're doing. And well, I'm not going to add about the name. I don't think there's a problem with the name, but we should emphasize a lot about the culture. And this is Hussein. And
Hussein, I appreciate that a lot. I mean, I think the idea that we've talked all morning about this concept of how do we these. So we have some fears out there of what we're not doing, and this, we see this thing approaching on the horizon of is construction going to fail us like it did in Florida? And there's so many buildings built around the world all the time that don't fail. And so we see these failures and we really look at them. We have to study them and look at them closely so that we don't do the same thing again. That's the idea of the continuous improvement spectrum of let's study this, let's analyze. This will be analyzed and studied for a long time, but the levels of failure that happened there are huge. But we have that level of failure. We probably get lucky a lot of the time too, with all the buildings that are built around the world that have been built for in Europe thousands of years, so that don't fall down, that don't have problems. So we've been doing great things for a long time, and that's one point I was going to make from way earlier when we were talking about this idea of failures. Contractors that and owners and the teams that don't want to get into working in a lean philosophy, the thing is they already are, and that's the light bulb moment for a lot of people. Is we do things in a lean manner every single day. We just don't realize it. The beauty of packaging it into the lean construction world is that we now have the words, the definitions, the tools are there to be explained to us. But the light bulb moments go off when we realize that the things we've been doing all along are quote unquote lean. And so that's the beauty of working with, I guess, the masterminds or the mega minds of lean in the lean world. A lot of us are going to point to the great things we do every day and show you that you're already working in a lean capacity. You don't need to call it lean. You just say, this is how we've been doing business today. Let's try to do it a little bit better tomorrow. And so that's the beauty of the idea of lean and how it's packaged. I think a lot of people look at it and say, well, if I want to go do lean over there on this project, and that's the mindset that we're trying to stop and modify. I think we touched on the idea, Brittanie, of the contract. And the contract is that full extension of using That's the power of lean at its fullest extent. But we do great things every day, and that's what should be pointed out to teams all the time. And that's what I try to do when I work with teams: is say, "What are you doing today? Let me understand what you're doing today." And I'm like, "Well, that's lean. That's lean." And they're like, "Holy cow, really?" That's what's really cool about this world we live in right now.
John, I kind of agree and disagree a little bit. So I'm more perfectionist. So yes, I agree that you're doing great things. I agree that lots of things we're doing were kind of lean. I agree with that. I agree that if because I've studied all everything, the concept of construction and construction management, project management, and there are lots of things which are the old-fashioned way, which are studied, are taken from lean because they are good practices and just brand it as lean so that people will accept it, or introduce it in a better way, or define it in a better way so people can take it, and because it was complicated before but still it was there. So yeah, I agree with that. But what I don't agree is what you said about we are doing uh, lots of successes or lots of projects. I mean, one building collapsed, but other didn't. Structurally, if they didn't fail, that doesn't mean that functionally they didn't fail or partially fail. Um, there are even in the best. If you go and look around, and even the best project, which is said great success, and talk to the end users, you can dig out 100 issues of that structure that we delivered that wasn't per the end user ultimate. Even if they accept it because they don't have a choice, but they say, "Oh, wish you didn't do that. Wish you did that. Wish you put that here or didn't put that here," and that's for me it's a fail, um, because we didn't talk to them. So I'm going to take an analogy here about sports, soccer. Now we have the Euro Cup in Europe is just finishing, and then people, of course, in my entourage, they love to talk about that and passionate about it and say, "Oh, this team is going to win. This team is going to win. Why this team didn't win, and why this team didn't win?" And there was one team that everybody say they're going to win, and they lost yesterday, and they were surprised. I wasn't surprised because say, "Well, look, you saw a glimpse of success, but I saw a failure as a group, a rigid, non-dynamic. The purpose isn't there. They did something that 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 got them to win few games. So and then, but when they are really challenged, they failed, and this is what's happening in our construction teams. We are building project. We are building structures. We go from project to project. Rarely you can say, if you ask anybody that works in the construction for the last 10 years, he will not tell you that any project he did fail. They say everything was a success. But check with that team when they finish that project. What's the mindset of that team? How they went out of that project? Did they went out as solid team, or they crumbled after, or what's the damage mentally, physically, that happened to that team during that journey? And you can see if that project was a success or a failure. And this is what we need to tackle here, because we are dealing with the people. We want to have every single person come out from the project stronger, and stronger as a unit, stronger as a team. This is Hussein.
I love what you said, Hussein, about the team environment that you're really creating. Um, and I I acknowledge your statements around um, there are old project management ways um, that people hold on to and can almost stifle the growth of a team by sticking to some of those techniques, if you will. But it is really about uplifting the team. and allowing every single person on that team, making that space, creating that environment for every single person to grow. Um, and I think that uh, there is there's a mindset around growth that every single person has to have, and you have to create that environment for when you have a project team. So anybody who's a leader on a project team, or it doesn't matter what side of or what party you are in the overall approach in that whole delivery, whether it be owner, architect, engineer, contractor, trade contractor, whatever it is, as long as you, and everybody really is a leader because you're a leader in regard to the mindset. I like what Louise talked about from a mastermind perspective. There's always somebody that has some expertise. Doesn't even have to be around construction. It could be around people management. It could be around um, cooking, right? Like if somebody can grill really well, like that is the expertise that a team environment can leverage, right? Like these are the kinds of things that will empower team mindset and allow people to actually enjoy the growth process. But what you can't stick to is staying exactly the same. You have to grow. You have to understand that there are these new, not necessarily new, but different ways of approaching things, and be open to shifting and adjusting in order for the betterment of the project to take place. Because to your point, being on the owner side, there's always something glitchy at the end. It could have had the most amazing vision in the beginning and actually delivered exactly the way we intended it to, and it's still not working the way it should be, based upon operations, the plant, the actual in-house operations. Maybe there wasn't somebody to support um, a particular technology or something like that. But yeah, really, really good points. Thanks for that, Hussein.
Hey, Brittany, I would like to share two stories with the group related to mindset. One is of mindset, and another one is of leadership. If the board allows.
Go ahead.
Yes. So the first one, in reference to mindset, in my personal story, I'm a service disabled vet. I was deployed over 3 times, and on my third time, I became, I came back broken, in the sense that I couldn't adapt back to my regular job when I was an auditor in the finance community, and coming into construction is kind of what restored me. And the mindset that I've brought into construction is finding the beauty and seeing something broken, and restoring it to something new. There's some divinity in that for me that really makes me happy. So I'm always, when I approach a project, I like doing restoration projects because of that, because of that mindset of taking something broken or old or ugly and restoring it to its to its new beauty or improvement. And there's just something magical in that for me. So the mindset of approaching everything, or every project as taking something that's broken and restoring it, um, has created a lot of value for my clients, for myself, and brings everybody kind of on the same, on that same mindset of adding value to the community, which is one of my main missions in life right now. And the second story, in reference to leadership, um, is there's yeah, we are in an interesting point in history where there is a generational transfer from a previous generation to a new generation, and a new generation that's used to technology and may not be used to working with their hands in construction where there's a lot of hard work. But what I found is that in the school system, the current school system, there's not a lot of trade schools and trades being taught into the school system as they used to in the past. And something I really enjoy doing is whenever I have time to offer my expertise and concrete coatings and polishing concrete, which is a trades business that I have, and teaching high school students how to do it. If you look into my Instagram, I do have a picture of me teaching a few high school students how to polish concrete and teaching them about epoxy coatings and that sort of thing. And just seeing their eyes light up and them recognizing how valuable it is, in construction, to take something, that, or restoring that power of restoring, of creativity, um, and making a change in their life, and bringing them into construction, is powerful, because something that we do need to do as leaders is always seek out talent and pass our knowledge to the next generation. And I always seek for opportunities to do that. My name is Luis, and I'm done.
Yeah, adding what Louis said in 2001, California took the trades out of the prisons as well. Um, so we've got to recapture every single person we need to make up for the demographic shift. But we talk about students, but often forget the prison trades. The tradesmen who used to come out of prisons are also important for this demographics we're about to lose. Everything won't be prefab. There's still a lot of bathrooms that need to be done. There's still a lot of caulking, window changes to save on energy. Everything can't be solar. But everyone knows I'm a really simple guy, so that's where I'm at, Tony.
We think about the idea of projects that have, at the end of the job, I've talked to a lot of clients when I first sit down with them, and they're saying, I don't want to work with this person again. I don't want to work with this person again. And this is kind of going along to what Hussein was talking about with all these little things that happen at the end of a project. The thing, things will happen. People are human. We make mistakes. Did the team that you built, are they going to stand there with you and finish this out and fix what is wrong with it, or are they going to walk away, put their hands up, and say, "Sorry, you're not paying me for this, so I'm not going to fix what I broke." And so that's part of the issue. The other issue, so I think about conditions of satisfaction as we develop our contracts and develop our just the project. We call it project charter, whatever you want to call it. These ideas of how we're going to build the project, so at the end of the day, the client, the one that's ultimately paying for the project, is going to be satisfied. Do we go through that process with them? Do they want to understand that? Do they want to spend the time doing that? And if they don't, I had a client recently say, "No, we don't want to. We're not interested in doing that." I kind of thought I should prepare our own conditions of satisfaction and hand it to them and say, "Is this kind of what you're thinking for how you'll feel satisfied when the project's over? How are we going to measure ourselves at the end of the project?" And then we also have to look at key performance indicators. How are we going to measure ourselves during the project cycle to understand, are we on track with what will ultimately make us all satisfied with how the project ended up? So those are, again, some key characteristics. How are we going to track ourselves with metrics during the project and say, yes, we are on track, we are doing the right thing, it's working? Or do we need to make an adjustment somewhere in the path? Those are, again, simple things to do, but some maybe hard to get alignment from everybody when we're trying to work on them.
Hey, John, if I may add to that, there is a process that I have that it's working for me, where when I go to these parks and I see things that can be improved, um, per the code and for the safety of the community. Um, when I write my requirement, I talk about I talk about the scope of the work. Then I talk about the cost of not doing anything, and then I talk about the economics of what happens if this does not get improved. How does it affect the community? How does it how does it prohibit the county or municipality from generating revenue from this project, or how does it harm the local community? And typically, once I'm done with my write up, because I do it honest, based on my talents and based on my honest opinion, I 80% of the time I do get some response out of it, and I am brought in as a stakeholder into it, and so yeah, having that mindset of telling your owner of, hey, this is the cost of doing nothing, and this is how this project will sustain itself by either bringing in more revenue or preventing you from losing more revenue. I think it helps, and it has worked for me. This is Luis. I'm done speaking.
I had a quick question for John or Felipe or anybody who's done this. Well, curious as to how behaviors can be tracked, or how have you tracked behavior-based KPIs on projects in the past?
Well, so there's like behavior. I think if I had to track it, I would go to even things like plan percent complete on our daily pull plan, weekly pull plan, or using our Lance Planner system. If I track behaviors, I could track, did we do what we said we were going to do today, tomorrow, etc. So we can look at our plan percent complete, our PPC, and say, are we doing what we said we were going to do? So that's a behavior of doing that. You can dig into when we missed an item on a pull plan. Now we have a log that keeps track of, as a group, keeps track of, why did we miss something? Why did we not do what we said we were going to do? Then I can drill into a certain behavior that's happening, not just with an individual, but as a project team. Is that behavior, are we allowing a behavior of sandbagging, or the fact that we don't have materials on site when we need them? Are we allowing that behavior to occur? And how do we adjust for that? Instead of just continuing to let it happen, I want to dig into the reasons why those things are occurring and try to stop them. So there are ways to, I don't know if that answers the question, Brittany, but I think it's really digging into looking at why did we do what we said we we're going to do? And if we didn't, why?
Yeah, I think it does, and maybe I asked the question in a way where maybe you couldn't get that the crux of what I was trying to get at as well. Culture is what I was wanting to be able to track, whether you're inciting the culture that you're looking for or not.
There you go. Little bit of context. Yeah, you have to. On KPIs, I find, Brittany, the best are those that are made by the team. So when we do like a conditions of satisfaction workshop with the team, the whole team, and people come up with the things that they need to be completely satisfied. Yeah, sometimes you're going to have profitability come up. Sometimes you're going to have safety. You'll have some measures of quality. You should have measures of quality if you have a building owner in your mix. So that there'll be these things that come up, and then occasionally you'll have culture things like, I want this project to be fun. Or someone might have a KPI like, we should want to work together after this job is complete. And then you can measure that. So some teams, the one team in particular in California, there was a team in San Diego where everyone agreed as a KPI they wanted to measure how well they're working together and specifically around fun and relationships. So they just devised a simple question to measure that. I think the statement for satisfaction was we want to work together on the next job. We want to all work in such a way that we want to work together on the next job. And so they asked, how can we track this? This seems like there can be no numbers to this. So we just introduced a Likert scale and a survey on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is like, yes, absolutely, I'm never going to work with you people ever again. Can't wait to get off of this thing. I hate your guts. And 5 is, oh my God, I love you. I'm adopting you as a child. I love you unconditionally. Maybe not that extreme, but you get the picture. And so they decided that they were just going to look at that monthly and then anonymously as well. And so you have to do it anonymously so that people don't have to worry about retribution or someone having a bad day and being negative or being perceived or ousted or whatever to be put outside the circle. Anonymous is the best way to do those types of tracking, those qualitative types of things like culture. And just the fact that they did that, I heard from an architect from the same company but not that job, mentioning what a fantastic job that is. And they were hearing the buzz in the office about how that job was going. I never had to get re-engaged for that project team after that initial push. So I think that's just a powerful indicator of how we can absolutely measure the right things and focus on what we're trying to accomplish, but don't undermine or underestimate the value of the culture that you set and that you bring to the project that you're involved with as well. People are always looking at other people, and if you stay consistent, you'll start to spread your culture, your ways of thinking, especially if it's lean thinking. Hello. Super biased here. That little green dot below my name. I'm super biased and I appreciate and love lean construction. My name's Felipe and I'm done speaking.
Thanks for that, Felipe.
May I add a little bit?
Please, Anne. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to mention that there's a software tool, Agile Health. It measures agile health, and it's a company based out of Florida, and it was created by a South African lady, and she's really good at measuring these, and they are doing very frequent releases. In the software, it really measures the team, and also from the team's perspective, the leadership, and also where it can indicate where are the areas for improvement, and it all in an anonymous fashion, if you design it that way. And that's a really good tool for feedback to the management, and also on the overall team dynamics itself, and also the improvement area.
What was the name of the software again, Anne?
I think it's called Agile Health. And they actually do a certification. I actually did that certification. It's Agile Health for Facilitator. And it's really good tool. Like once they do assessment on each of the team member, and they come back with a graphic representation of the results. And it's very telling.
Thank you. And you
also
brought the technology to prop tech today. Appreciate you. Go ahead, Brittany.
I thought Hussein had something.
Yeah, I would just want to add quickly that it's very important to look at the health of the team, the cultural health, the mindset, and we need to always have eyes open, mind, open ears, see the cues, see what the cues coming from the team, see what's going on. Is that person having a bad day for something that happened in his family, in his house, or is he start getting upset from working on the team, and why. There's lots of cues we can look at. We cannot push anything under the rug, and this is any person is responsible, and this is we have to agree on that and talk about that at the beginning, that we are going to be watching that, and we are going to try and work it out, not just ignore it, because I'm sure that everybody has sat on the meeting, seen people this disengage, not interested, looking at their phone, joking with somebody on the side, or just bouting or rolling their eyes. They are all signs, if you want to say KPI, and yeah, we have to really be on the lookout for that.
I have something to say um, in reference to in reference to that. One practice that I like to do is
Looks like we lost them. Yeah, I think creating these ideas of key performance indicators, conditions of satisfaction, as Felipe said before he had to drop off here, the idea of doing this as a team is important. When I sit with owners initially, the owner needs to have some ideas of the conditions of satisfaction and how they're going to track the job as it finishes. How are they going to feel satisfied that what was done was what they wanted? But then as we bring the team on board, we need to let the team also put together this list of things that they will feel satisfied about when they're done. And that's one of the concepts around this key performance indicators and creating them as a team. The idea of everyone leaves the job feeling satisfied at the end of the day. Everyone makes a profit. Everyone, wants to work together again. Those kind of things seem hokey, but they really are powerful when it comes to developing a hardworking team that is going to work together, that wants to work together again, because the job becomes enjoyable. And so and I like the idea of doing this anonymously. The example I had mentioned earlier to Brittanie about the idea of when we miss something on our last planner, the pull plan, we put it on the board as a reason why that item was missed. We don't assign it to a person. We don't say John missed this because of whatever. We say the team missed this item, and here's why. And we give a simple reason why, or one excuse. Let's call it. Let's say sandbagging, didn't have materials, didn't have manpower, those kind of things. Then we break down and say, why is the team continuing to do this? That behavior, why is that team's behavior continuing to allow us to continue to miss things on our schedule because of lack of materials, lack of manpower, lack of information, sandbagging, lack of coordination, whatever it might be. Then we start to dig into why it's actually occurring to stop it. That's an anonymous thing also. We all may know who is actually the one that's causing the problem. That's actually secondary to what the problem is and how we're going to solve together as a team, because we got to pick each other up. We can't let this happen and point the finger at one particular person in general and say you're the problem. That's not how we're going to problem solve. We're going to problem solve by working together as a team to do this, and that's what really makes these conditions of satisfaction, key performance indicators, so powerful, because it's about the team.
Yeah, totally agree. And correction, Brittanie, the software is called Agility Health.
Thank you, Anne.
No problem. I'd also like to contribute a little bit. I don't know if it really adds on to anything, but based on everyone's wonderful discussion, it made me think of at my work, what we have been kind of advocating, or design. It's called design thinking, and its best champion is probably Apple. Basically, um, in your design, in your process, um, try to figure in the think about the customers and the end results, and how to best serve that purpose. And customer to me could be people, or could be environment, um, anything living in it. So in this context of this room, I think that perhaps it will add on um, to the beginning, before like all the process, the construction process starts, um, from the get-go. In the early morning discussion, Marcus and I and another gentleman, I can't remember the name, but we were talking about how at the start of the projects, how to set the whole project right. That's probably where it starts, and of course, during uh, the entire project process, can also be optimized. Um, and that's where I hear, talk about value streams, during the value creation. Um, that's kind of the area that I work in, value stream, taxonomy, capability models, and all of that. So um, I think that will help in what Jesse was mentioning earlier, like helping digging deep down into the root cause of the issues rather than doing the patchwork fixes. I'm done speaking.
And you brought up a great point about the idea of who the customer is. And you always got to think about who are you delivering work to. So if you're the end provider, the ultimate project is being delivered to a owner or a client to use the building, whether it's a residency or commercial property, a hospital, whatever it might be. So there's something there about who the customer is, and that's extremely important. Also, in lean thinking or lean mindset, or just in our mindset in general, we really need to consider who is the customer today. And the customer is that person we're handing work to, and that work that we're handing them needs to be done at a high level of quality and meet the expectations of their expectations. So they have to, there's a back and forth that needs to occur between the customer and the person providing the work to that customer. So if I am receiving something from one of my project managers, the only way I'm going to get what I want is to tell them what I want and tell them format should be, etc. Now they need to be creative within that, but give them the guardrails to succeed. So I need to be able to give people the guardrails. Here's what I'm looking for in the format that I want it. Obviously, you're not going to give them every little detail and tell them the exact words to write, because if you did that, why would you need them in the first place? But if I set my expectation of what I'm looking for, then they can deliver to me that day as the customer what I want. And that's how we stop doing rework and how we stop delivering products in a poor fashion. And that's how we become successful, is to set an expectation. So there's a conversation that needs to happen between who's providing the work and who's receiving the work. That happens on a project site between the trades when they're working on their site. And if they're not having that conversation, that's why we end up with punch lists and all kinds of defects on our projects and we dig into the 8 wastes of construction. I could go on for hours about the 8 wastes of construction. I actually do go on for hours about the 8 wastes of construction sometimes on webinars, presentations, etc., because they're so apparent and so appalling at times, because we allow this to happen. We allow this behavior to happen because we're not keeping track of it. We're not watching it, and we're not having this conversation between the customer and the one providing the work to that customer. We need to have that. We need to have that checklist or format or template or whatever you want to call it. Don't get frustrated if people aren't. You can get frustrated if people aren't delivering a product to you. And I think Hussein, you brought this up earlier. As the owner, I'm frustrated when the project ends and I didn't get what I wanted. You know what? A lot of that is on the owner. A lot of that is on the client itself, the one paying for the job, that wasn't paying attention, wasn't watching, didn't have, let's say, an owner's representative there to support what they wanted or the vision that they had, or they didn't explain it clearly enough. Half of the problem is on the owner. It's not just the contractors or the architects or the engineers that work on the projects. And so a lot of owners need to look in the mirror and understand that, and I think we're afraid to. So you can be frustrated if you're not getting what you want, but you're getting what you allow. And that's a real issue in our society, in our dissatisfactions. That's why we're dissatisfied with our projects. A lot of the times we're getting what we allow, which is a lackluster effort, let's say, from our teams.
Yeah, I totally agree. Both aspiration and the guardrail are important for a project to succeed. And at my work, we kind of adopt the OKR method of measuring how we do objective and key results. OKR. I think that's basically setting what you call, John, expectation, setting the objective, and also have the guardrails, the key results that, for team to have that direction, and also have, how are they going to aspire to do things, rather than run in all directions.
I had this, we have this committee that meets for the hospital, that one of the hospital clients I work with a lot, and we have this meeting every week where we have to lay down or we have to sit down and talk about our projects so that we can get a construction permit from the hospital. And I put together this package on one of our very early meetings. And I've been doing this work for a long time, and I put this thing together. And I'm like, this is great. It looks great. And it wasn't even reviewed by the committee. I wasn't there to present it, but the committee didn't review it because it wasn't in the format that they were looking for. Well, I thought I delivered a great quality product. It wasn't what they wanted because they had asked for something specifically. So what we did then was we put guardrails around it. After this occurred, we sat down as a team internally and said, okay, if we're delivering something that we think is great, but the client is not what the client wants and is expecting to see at this meeting, we need to have a checklist that identifies what those things are and get that ready and send it out as a checklist, rather than creating these things that are wasteful. So I wasted a whole bunch of time doing something that the client didn't feel was valuable at all, and they didn't even look at it or review it. Well, that's disappointing, but it's also a lesson in ask the client what they want and then deliver. And it seems simple, but so many people just almost don't want to do that for fear of asking, because maybe they should have already been told once before and you didn't write it down or you forgot. And so now you're not going to ask again. Well, it doesn't ever hurt to ask again. Like, continue to ask the question. Is this what you're looking for? Is this what you want? Am I providing what you want? And so, it's something that we got to be very mindful
of. 100%. And I just want to pile on the OKR. That's objectives and key results. For those of you that aren't super nerded up like I am at times, I just had my second cup of coffee, so my nerd level increased just half a tick. I'd say caution for all of you looking at that. There's a lot of stuff online you can read about how OKRs work and aligning the organization. It's a framework that was made famous by Andy Grove at Intel was some of a lot of the genius behind Intel and their success in the chip area. And then his protege, John Doerr, Doer, has been making OKRs super popular. It's the latest management fad and trend in Western management today, sweeping the world and going overseas as well. Just be cautious of how it's being deployed would be my advice to all of you young people and older people that are Googling away as you're listening to this conversation and looking into things. So just remember that, like we talked about leadership before, saying something once in a meeting 2 months ago, like John was so keen to pick up on, the same thing can happen with OKRs, even with technology where everyone has the objectives and key results that they've personalized and made for themselves. Many organizations still haven't spent the leadership capital to put that in play, and they just strap on that system on top of their current processes, and they don't get the results that they're looking for. So in lean construction, we've mentioned respect for people, far more important in my mind than continuous improvement. I consider continuous improvement the default human thing. We're all adapting and learning every day. The thing that sometimes we forget is that respect for people part. That is critically foundational to what we're doing. Why would you improve anyway if you didn't respect yourself and those you work with? You wouldn't. You would just maintain what you already have because it's good enough. And so that's where I think that respect for people is the first foundational part that continuous improvement is on top of. They're not, in my mind, not equal. Contrary to the Toyota house, showing them as pillars, I still think foundational is respect for people when I look back into their history and how it came to be. So, love that. Love the conversations here. Love the technology part. Love the debate. Hussein coming in with the contrary mindset. I highly encourage that, Hussein. You keep coming with that contrary opinion and stoking the different thinking here, which is critically important. And just want to say thank you to Melissa, Delmain, Anthony, Kristinell in the audience for listening. If you got a question about construction, lean construction, feel free to raise your hand, bring you up on stage, and answer your question. My name is Felipe, and I'm done speaking.
Hey, just want to let you guys know we're looking to wrap up at about 9 o'clock. But if you do have questions or comments, we do want to hear from you. But maybe now is a good time for us to. We've been kind of doing a plus delta throughout the actual conversation. But maybe this is a good time to start our plus delta exercise.
Love it. Do
Let's
it, Brittany.
Yeah, let's do it. I got to get ready for my web shameless plug. I have a webinar today at 10 a.m. Central, so in an hour. So, and we're talking about integrated project delivery for small projects. Spoiler alert: first thing we're going to talk about is building a culture on our teams. So, pretty cool stuff. But this is for LCI. Something we do often, and hopefully it'll be successful. We got a couple hundred people joining the room today, which is a great number. I think it's over 200, so it's exciting. But plus delta for today's session. So the pluses again are the things that we found that were productive, and deltas are the things that we would like to modify or adjust for next time.
I'll go for plus. I like the diversity of thought. We had people from manufacturing, medical biotech, and technology spaces, real estate, and even some investing people. So love diversity of thought. Massive plus for me on that one.
Big plus, making it real, small part of the conversation. Didn't specifically talk about Surfside condo inspection, but again, we didn't hold ourselves back from talking about real issues. So that was really exciting to me that we were able to incorporate something that's real time.
Yeah, I think Delta for me is always the idea that we need more people in the room, and I don't know if I was looking at the hallway of Clubhouse and seeing. I think they re-ranked everything based on, and maybe this is my settings or something, but based on the number of people in the room. So if you're, and that sucks, because if you have a room that needs to be more popular, like this one needs to be, biased opinion, but how do you get more people in there if it's all the way at the bottom of the feed? I just don't understand that. So not a great way to be collaborative, but I need to spread. We need to spread the word and get more people talking here, because this is powerful.
Yeah, it sucks that we compete with room that talking about how to spread peanut butter and jelly. That's on the top. Yeah, that's me. I don't know if we can do something about it, but but yeah, great stuff. Great. I enjoy it a lot today.
And how about you? Maybe Anne stepped away here for a second, but what I love about today is we had a great and early start, 5 a.m. Central start, and we've actually had a rotation of moderators during this time. So I appreciate the support in wanting to keep this conversation going on a week to week basis, providing this opportunity to get together and talk about the things that are important today. I appreciate the dialogue around quality of work. I think it's relevant and it's a timely discussion for us to be thinking about. I really like those two things. Delta, I agree, John. We've been testing some things about how to get the word out. We've been live streaming on a number of platforms, so we do have a couple people watching. But yeah, I think brainstorming a few different ways on how to invite people invite more people and invite more conversations to this Thursday lean construction roundtable or mastermind or whatever we want to call it. Um, I think that's something that I am constantly looking for ways to, um, to change so that we can impact more people with this amazing information that we're discussing about. We appreciate all of you here in the audience as well. If you have any feedback, if you appreciated the conversation, if you have some ideas on what we can change, we'd love to hear from you, Melissa, Delmaine, Anthony, and My Wand. Just appreciate having you in the conversation if you don't want to raise your hand. But thank you so much. All right, we're bringing Melissa up to the stage. Melissa, what do you have for us? Melissa, did you have some feedback to share?
Conversation for me.
Oh, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Oh, my bad. You, okay, I'm sorry. I was talking. Yeah, so just thank you guys for hosting the roundtable. Thank you, John and Tony, Marcus, Brittany, Felipe, Hussein. Yeah, everybody. And it was a good conversation for me. I always love to hear, like I said earlier, the lean construction topics and ways that I can implement some of these strategies here at our job sites. But yeah, it was a good topic. Keep it coming for the next session. When are you guys back on?
Yeah, we meet weekly on this particular topic, lean construction roundtable. So we'll be setting up the next couple weeks here. So you should be able to follow the Prop Tech Club and um, hit the little bell at the top for each one of the rooms that you want to participate in. and you should be able to get a notification.
Okay, good deal.
Thanks for the feedback, Melissa. Anybody have anything else to wrap up with? I gotta get my my music together here yet. And thank you everyone for joining the Prop Tech Club. Thanks for having the amazing conversations that we're having every week at the Lean Construction Roundtable. And we'll catch you next week.
Bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye, everyone.